All right, so you're looking for some insight into the Michigan State-Iowa game. See if the Spartans can keep that winning streak alive.
Yeah, and maybe figure out if it's going to be a high-scoring game or not. I think we've got a ton of predictions and stats to look at.
Let's dive right in.
I think what we're looking at here is a real clash of styles. You've got Michigan State, they're ranked number 8, 24-5 overall, 15-3 in the Big Ten. They're on a 5-game win streak.
Hot.
They're hot right now. And then you've got Iowa sitting at 15-14, 6-12 in the Big Ten. But they're always a team that can be a spoiler, especially on their home court.
Right, they always seem to give Michigan State a run for their money historically.
Exactly. Iowa's actually won 5 of their last 6 against Michigan State, but there's a trend here that we need to look at. They've struggled in night games against top 10 AP ranked opponents. They've lost 16 of their last 17. So with Michigan State sitting at number 8, that could be a big factor.
For sure. And let's talk about each team's strengths a little bit. That recent win against Wisconsin for Michigan State really showcased their dominance. 51-40 rebounding advantage.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
Yeah.
I think that rebounding really speaks to their strength as a team overall. They've got really balanced scoring too, 10-plus players scoring double digits in 17 games this season.
Wow.
It makes them really hard to guard because you can't just focus in on one player.
Right, exactly. And Jaden Akins is definitely a player to watch. He's on the Oscar Robertson Trophy watch list.
Yeah.
And then J.C. Richardson has been really stepping up for them too. But we can't forget about Iowa's offensive firepower.
Yeah, for sure. They're averaging 83.1 points per game, which is 3rd in the Big Ten and 17th nationally. And they're shooting incredibly efficiently, too, leading the Big Ten in effective field goal percentage. So they're making the most of their shots.
So even though their record might not be super impressive, they can definitely light up the scoreboard.
Oh, yeah. Players like Peyton Sandfort, who's a Julius Erving Award candidate, and Josh Dix have been carrying the load even without Owen Freeman in the lineup recently.
All right, so as far as predictions go, it seems like the experts are siding with a Michigan State victory here. Big Dogs is even recommending a bet on the Spartans -7, citing their strong form and Iowa's struggles, especially on the road.
And it's interesting, Bleacher Nation and Fox Sports are also predicting a Michigan State win, but there's a slight difference. Bleacher Nation's got them at Nebeter 6.5, and Pick Dogs is saying Medgar 7.
So they both agree that Michigan State should win, but there's some wiggle room in terms of how dominant it's going to be. All right, let's look at the stats here, get into the numbers.
Let's do it. Michigan State's got a significantly better scoring margin, 20.67 to Iowa's -5.5. So you can really see the difference there in their overall strength.
Yeah, and their field goal percentage defense is also a huge difference. Michigan State leads the Big Ten. Iowa actually has the worst in the Big Ten.
Oh, wow.
Pretty big difference there.
Yeah, Michigan State's known for their defense, and if Iowa can't find a way to penetrate and get some good shots, it's going to be hard for them to keep up.
Right. But Iowa does have one thing going for them. They've got the best assist-to-turnover ratio in the Big Ten.
That's right. They're really good at moving the ball and finding the open man, so that could be a way for them to kind of counteract Michigan State's defense.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can do that. Now we've got to look at the head-to-head history between these two teams, because that always plays a factor, and in this case, it might surprise you.
All right, so looking at the history here, it gets a little bit interesting because Iowa has historically had the upper hand against Michigan State, but we've got that trend working against them of struggling against the top 10 opponents at night.
Right, so will history repeat itself, or will that recent trend be the deciding factor? I guess we'll have to wait and see.
You know, you mentioned that Iowa has had some historical success against Michigan State, and it makes you wonder what it is about this matchup that's given them that edge.
Yeah, what is it about Iowa that kind of throws Michigan State off their game?
Well, one thing is they're able to really disrupt Michigan State's defense, which is usually rock solid. They've got those shooters who can spread the floor, and their guards are really good at penetrating and creating scoring opportunities.
So they force Michigan State to adjust their defense, which kind of opens things up a little bit.
Exactly. And another thing is they're really good at dictating the tempo. So if they can control the pace and kind of force Michigan State to play at their speed, that could play into Iowa's hands a little bit.
For sure. And we can't forget about the home court advantage either. Carver Hawkeye Arena is a tough place to play, and that crowd can really give them an extra boost.
It's like a 6th man out there.
Yeah.
But, you know, we can't discount Michigan State's momentum either. They're on that 5-game win streak. They're playing with a lot of confidence and intensity, and we haven't really seen that from them in recent years.
Yeah, they're coming off of that big win against Wisconsin where they Really showcased their defensive strength, their ability to control the boards. Do you think that win is a sign of things to come, or was it just kind of a one-off? I think that Wisconsin game was a statement game for sure. I mean, they completely shut down Wisconsin's big men. The rebounding was phenomenal. I think it suggests that they're peaking at the right time.
And we've got to mention Jaden Akins, too. He's been such a consistent scoring threat all season long.
He is. He's a matchup nightmare for a lot of teams. He can score from anywhere on the court, and if Iowa can't contain him, it could be a big night for him. So we've got this classic clash of styles here. Iowa's explosive offense, Michigan State's defense. Who do you think has the edge in this matchup?
You know, on paper, you'd probably have to give the edge to Michigan State. Their defense is elite. Rebounding is top-notch. But Iowa has that, that way of pulling off upsets, and especially against Michigan State.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if they can do that again this time around. It really comes down to which team can impose their will on the game. If Michigan State can slow it down, make it a half-court game, they'll probably be in a good spot. But if Iowa can get their offense going, force Michigan State to play at a faster pace, then things could get interesting.
Right. What are you seeing as the key factors that will determine the outcome?
Well, the rebounding battle is going to be crucial. Michigan State has a clear advantage in that area. They're going to need to dominate the boards if they want to control the tempo. If Iowa can somehow keep it close on the boards, I think that would be a huge win for them.
Absolutely. And I think Iowa's ability to take care of the ball is going to be huge, too, because Michigan State's defense is designed to force turnovers. So if Iowa can limit their mistakes and make them work for every possession, I think they've got a better chance of staying in the game.
And you can't forget about the three-point line either. Iowa relies so much on their outside shooting, and they're going to have to hit some threes if they want to keep up.
Right. Michigan State's defense is going to force them into those tough contested shots. So Iowa's got to be patient and find some good looks from deep. I think this is where their assist-to-turnover ratio could really come into play. If they can move the ball around and find open shooters, they might have some success.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting the coaching matchup here. Tom Izzo is a master strategist. He's known for making adjustments and exploiting weaknesses.
And Fran McCaffrey's no slouch either. He's a great offensive mind.
Yeah.
He knows how to get the most out of his players, so it's going to be an interesting chess match between these two.
So after considering everything here, are you ready to make a prediction?
I think I am. It's tough, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say Michigan State wins this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think Michigan State's defense is going to be the deciding factor, but it's not going to be an easy win by any means.
No, I think it'll be close, but ultimately Michigan State's experience, their defensive strength, and the rebounding, I think that's going to prevail.
Yeah, and I think for our listeners, something to keep an eye on is how each team defends the pick and roll. That's a staple of both their offenses, and whichever team can effectively defend it is going to have a big advantage.
That's a great point. The pick and roll is such a crucial play in basketball, and it'll be interesting to see how each team adjusts their defense to try to counter it.
All right, so before we wrap up, let's touch on the point total predictions.
Yeah.
Bleacher Nation has the over-under at 151.5. That's pretty high considering, these are two defensively strong teams.
Yeah, that number really jumped out to me too. It's bold, for sure, but I do think there's a chance it could go over. Iowa's offense is potent. Michigan State, they like to push the pace when they can get out in transition.
So are we both kind of leaning towards the over here?
I am cautiously, though, because, there's some arguments to be made on both sides. I mean, if Michigan State's defense is as stifling as it's been, they could keep Iowa's scoring in check.
Right. It's the classic dilemma of trying to predict whether offense or defense is going to win out. But that's what makes it so interesting.
Absolutely. And I think for our listeners, keep an eye on how Michigan State's big men defend Iowa's guards on that pick and roll, because that matchup could be key in determining whether it goes over or under.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, so I think we've covered a lot of ground here. We've analyzed the historical context, the strengths and weaknesses of both teams, what the experts are predicting. We've even gotten into some specific things to watch for during the game.
Hopefully you, the listener, feel like you are well equipped to enjoy this game.
So now let's wrap up with one final thought here. You never really know what's going to happen on any given night in college basketball.
Right. That's part of the beauty of it, the unpredictability. You never know who's going to step up and have a big game. You never know what kind of twists and turns are going to happen.
So grab your snacks, get comfy, and get ready for what's going to be a thrilling game.
We'll be back next time for another deep dive into college basketball.
As we're wrapping up here, I keep thinking about that point total. 151.5. It just seems like a lot of points, even with Iowa's offense.
Yeah, it's definitely a number that makes you think. You've got their scoring ability, but Michigan State's been playing such good defense all year.
Right. So are we thinking shootout or more of a defensive battle?
That's the big question. I think it could really go either way. Both teams have the potential to put up points,
Yeah.
but they can also shut each other down, so it really comes down to which team can kind of dictate the style of play.
Right, exactly.
If Michigan State can control the tempo, slow it down, force them into taking tough shots, I think they could keep the score down. But if Iowa gets out in transition, knocks down some early threes, forces Michigan State to play catch-up, yeah, we could see a lot of points.
And I think free throws could be a factor, too. Both teams shoot pretty well from the line. And if it comes down to the wire, those free throws are going to be huge.
That's a good point. If it's a close game, both teams are in the bonus early, those free throws will add up.
Right.
I think taking that into account, along with Iowa's offense, Michigan State getting out in transition, I think there's a good chance this one goes over.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the over, too. But we can't forget about those key defensive matchups.
Yeah.
Michigan State's field goal percentage defense has been amazing, and they're going to make it tough for Iowa to score inside.
Yeah, and Iowa's guards are quick, and they could give those big men some trouble on the perimeter, so it's going to be a fun battle to watch.
Yeah, definitely. So for our listeners out there, pay close attention to those matchups. See how those Michigan State big men defend the Iowa guards, especially on the pick and roll. And can those Iowa shooters find open looks against Michigan State's defense? It'll be interesting.
Yeah, and even though the experts and the stats might favor one team over the other, anything can happen on any given night in college basketball.
Absolutely. That's what makes it so exciting.
Exactly. So buckle up, enjoy the ride, get ready for a great game.
All right, that wraps up our deep dive into this matchup. We hope you've enjoyed it and you feel ready for the game.
We'll be back next time for another deep dive into college basketball, but until then, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep that love for the game alive.
We'll see you next time.